What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content that I'm uploading onto my channel, then feel free to subscribe, and you can also offer suggestions on topics and characters and storylines and whatnot that we can have discussions on later on in this channel.
So I've been sitting here thinking about how in the world I was gonna make this video, because I like shooting stuff from the hip. I like my videos to be more of like a conversation than like a lecture, because lectures are kind of boring. And I didn't want the title to be super spoilery, so I just kind of went with Doctor Strange, the mid-credit scene explained. Having said that, if you need to be told that this video is gonna have spoilers, then I don't know what to tell you, but this video is gonna have spoilers. So the mid-credit scene of Doctor Strange is Thor and Loki showing up at the house of Doctor Strange, and Thor asking, "Where's Odin?" So we know that somewhere along the line, Thor figured out that Loki was masquerading as Odin. So the question is, where is Odin? Now, having said that, I want to preface this by throwing it out there that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is kind of teased at the idea that Odin's dead. Like, Anthony Hopkins was like, he's dead, but it's never been confirmed that he's dead. So it's just kind of like, maybe, but not really. Having said that, that's entirely possible, because in my mind, Odin is in one of three locations, or three places or states of existence. Either he's in the Odin Sleep, he's dead, or, and if Marvel's doing what I hope they're doing, I really hope this happens, because it'll be amazing if it is, he's with the Sky Fathers. Now, to begin with the Odin Sleep, because the Sky Fathers opens up a whole nother kettle of beans in the Marvel Universe. Regarding the Odin Sleep, for those of you guys who don't know, Odin's power is what's called the Odin Force. So if you're always curious, like, why is Odin so powerful and what he can do? It's literally just called the Odin Force. It's called the Odin Force because Odin's in possession of it. If Thor had it, which he has, it's just called the Thor Force. If Loki had it, it'd be called the Loki Force. But the Odin Force is basically the life energy of Odin's two brothers when they sacrificed their lives fighting Surtur, which we'll get to here in a second, who merged their energy with Odin and then allowed Odin to defeat Surtur and confine him to Earth, to like the center of the world, I think. And from that point going forward, Odin just had this massive amount of energy. The kicker with this is that the Odin Force doesn't really change in terms of what it's capable of. But despite the fact that he's extremely long-aged, despite the fact that he eats these little mystical apples that prolong his life, Odin is not inherently immortal. A time will come when Odin will just die of old age. That's just the way it is. Now, it'll be millennia before that happens, but the time will come when that happens. I can't talk. I'm Ron Burgundy. So, with regards to the Odin Sleep, this is effectively Odin just recharging himself. Now, within Marvel Comics, this is a plot device. You know, because Odin is so powerful, whenever anybody shows up and tries to attack Asgard, Odin's like, the power of the Odin Force compels you, and they're defeated, and that's it. And so by having Odin fight some enemy like Galactus or something like that, having him use up a massive amount of his Odin Force, he goes to recharge that energy in the Odin Sleep. Now, how long he sleeps for is directly proportional to how much energy he uses. And so if he were to fight against like Captain America, which would be an awesome fight to see, I'd love to see Captain America versus Odin, but if he were to fight Captain America and Steve Rogers were by some, miracle or another able to hold his own, the amount of energy or the amount of sleep Odin would need to recharge from that battle would be far less than if he were to go against a cosmic entity like Eternity. And so the more energy he uses, the longer he sleeps, meaning that if he were to fight, someone like Eternity, the Odin Sleep may take days or weeks, sometimes even months or years. But it's just a way for Marvel to remove him from the landscape so they can have a legitimate, situation that shows up and challenges, Asgard, leading to some event like Ragnarok or something like that, which we'll also talk about that here in a second. Having said that, whenever Odin goes into the Odin Sleep, he's as easy to kill as any mortal. The caveat to this is he's also 100% aware of what goes on around him, so he knows everything that's happening. The issue is that once he goes into the Odin Sleep, he can't wake up prematurely. He has to sleep for the entire duration of the Odin Sleep. Now, how that translates in the movies, I'm not 100% sure, but in the comics, it's been kind of fickle. There have been a couple times here and there where he's just woken up from the Odin Sleep prematurely. But as far as I'm aware, whenever he goes into the Odin Sleep, barring some insane circumstance or Marvel just kind of deviating away from the status quo, he stays into the Odin Sleep until he's completely, recharged. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we saw at the end of Thor: The Dark World that Loki had taken over the position of Odin by basically shape-shifting to appear as Odin. And so something happened off-panel or something happened off-screen and we didn't know what it was. This leads us into the second possibility of Odin being dead. Now, there are a couple of ways in which this could have happened. It could have been that Loki just killed him. It could have been that Loki was just like, yep, time to die, time to kill Odin, take his place, but that wouldn't be interesting. It'd be kind of lackluster if we found out that Odin just died off-screen and Loki had just like stabbed him to death while he was in the Odin Sleep. That'd be very anticlimactic, and in truth, it'd be really disappointing, and it would seem to go against what Marvel does with regards to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When someone like Odin dies, it would be like this grandiose battle or something crazy like that. And so I don't think that Odin's dead, but it is possible. And the reason why it's also possible is because of Surtur. For those of you guys who are familiar with the idea of Ragnarok, bear with me for a second because a lot of people out there are not. So Ragnarok is like a prophecy within the realm of Asgard. It is a time will come when Ragnarok will happen. There is the false Ragnarok and there's the true Ragnarok. The true Ragnarok was what we saw in the last days of Loki in the events leading up to Secret Wars, where the ones who sit above in shadow returned and they said, no, that was never Ragnarok before. The false Ragnarok was what we saw with the event Thor Ragnarok that took place during Avengers Disassembled, and it basically dealt with the quote-unquote death of Thor. But regardless of how the events transpire, there are a set of circumstances that will lead to it. So really, Ragnarok is more of like a series of events that happen in sequence as opposed to one huge climactic event. The first is that Odin is removed from the landscape, and that happened in Marvel Comics with regards to the return of Surtur. Again, he had been confined to Earth by Odin, and it's a weird kind of mishmash of situations, but I'll run over all that Ragnarok stuff once we get closer to Thor 3. But the idea here was that Odin had fought Surtur and had died in the process, and so because of this, Odin was removed from the landscape. What this did is it set the stage for Loki to ally himself with Surtur, to ally himself with all the enemies of Asgard, and then invade Asgard and kill off almost all the Asgardians. There were a handful that survived here and there, the Warriors 3, Thor, so on and so forth, but they were all defeated. And so the result was that Thor actually went on this mystical quest where he gained the runes of Asgard, and he was God Thor. It was, what was it, Odin Force Thor or something like that. It was stupid. He was like multiversal powerful. It was only for a couple issues, but it was crazy how powerful he was, which I have a video on that you'll find down in the description. But the fact remains here that Ragnarok follows in that sequence. Now, the reason why I say it was a false Ragnarok is because we learned in Marvel Comics that Ragnarok is a repeating cycle. Up until that point, it was always just assumed that Ragnarok was some event far off in the distance, and that would be Marvel killing off the character of Thor, Odin's son. But we learned that there are these weird enigmatic beings called the ones who sit above in shadow who feed off the perpetual cycle of Ragnarok. And so right now in Marvel Comics, the version of Asgard that we've seen is who knows how many iterations. There have been countless iterations before that, and the events always transpire the same way. Now, this is likely due to the idea of, Earth and different things like that, but nonetheless, the video that I have in the description will explain all that stuff. But it's entirely possible between these two things that Odin was either killed in his battle with Surtur or he was killed by Loki. That's within the realm of reason. My take on this is that Odin is neither dead nor in the Odin Sleep. Instead, he's meeting with the Sky Fathers. And the reason why I say that is because of Thanos. In Marvel Comics, the Sky Fathers are what are called the second generation of gods. They're also called the Council of Godheads. They have a multitude of different names. But on the planet Earth in Marvel Comics, you have like the Elder Gods, which we don't care about. Those are the first gods that showed up. That's like Gaia, the representation of Mother Earth, so on and so forth. The second generation of gods are basically the in Marvel Comics representations of gods in the modern day. So Odin and Zeus and Vishnu and so on and so forth, gods that have been historically worshipped by civilizations here in the real world throughout the history of our planet. This Council of Godheads rarely ever meets, but when they do, it's because of a massive crisis. In Marvel Comics in 1991, when Jim Starlin wrote the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, the Council of Godheads came together because of the fact that Thanos had not only snapped his fingers and wiped out half the life in the universe, but because he had also destabilized the connection that these pocket dimensions of Olympus and Asgard and so on have with Earth. And so as a result, it was more or less Thanos screwing up the cosmic order of things. And because of this, the Council of Godheads came together and said, we need to do something to stop this. The problem, or I guess not really a problem, but the other half of this coin was that Adam Warlock, who had long since been an enemy of Thanos, began the process of traveling around the universe, gathering up whatever people he could that were left from half of those people who were wiped out, from all existence, and rallied those individuals to fight against Thanos. So it was Adam Warlock who gathered what was left of the Sky Fathers. It was Adam Warlock who gathered the Silver Surfer, Doctor Strange, the Earth superheroes, and it was Adam Warlock who gathered the cosmic entities, all of whom fought against Thanos, and all of whom were easily defeated. They were there. It was, it was a sight to behold. If what we see in the movie Infinity War is anything like what we saw in the comics, you guys are not prepared. It's gonna be, not even in hell would you see a massacre like what you will see in the movies. It'll be God, it'll be so amazing. I'm so excited. I'm so hyped. I'm sorry if I'm so excited, people. So anyway, when it comes to the Skyfathers, my thought is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because of the fact that Thanos is running around capturing the Infinity Stones, because don't forget, and this is why I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it's so easy to do in light of Age of Ultron and Captain America Civil War and what we'll probably see in Doctor Strange and so on. It's very easy to forget that Thanos is running around the universe right now, rounding up the Infinity Stones, capturing up all the different Infinity Stones, the Power Stone and the Mind Stone, the Time Stone, so on and so forth. And so because of this, it's likely that Odin had realized what was going on, whether it was because he monitored Thor when Thor had his visions and saw the Infinity Stones and Odin said, that's a problem. We need to bring the Skyfathers together and go check that out. Or whether it's because Odin had just been monitoring everything that was going on when he was in the Odin Sleep during Thor 2, when he was in the Odin Sleep and he'd been monitoring everything that was going on and came to the realization that Thanos was rounding up the Infinity Stones. Because remember, when Odin is in the Odin Sleep, he sees everything in the universe, everything that's happening at that moment right then. And so if he realized that Thanos was rounding up the Infinity Stones, then it may have been that during the events of Thor and during the events of Thor 2, he said, okay, we'll deal with this immediate threat and then we'll take off, we'll gather the Skyfathers and figure out what's going on with Thanos. That's my philosophy. And the reason why I think that is because it makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe more cohesive. But again, we don't really know what goes on behind closed doors. And as much as I'd love to be a fly on the wall of the meetings that are taking place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, I can't. I'm just a guy making YouTube videos, speculating on what I think is happening. And I think it would create a more cohesive scenario with Odin gathering the Skyfathers, but we also have to accept the fact that maybe Anthony Hopkins just didn't want to play Odin anymore. And so Kevin Feige and those guys just killed Odin off screen, which again would be kind of disappointing. But if you guys are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. And if you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like. And I'm kind of curious, let me know down in the comments section, what's your all's thought? Where do you guys think Odin is right now, this very moment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Do you think he's alive? Do you think he's dead? Are you like me and you hope he's rounding up the Skyfathers and they're going to be just one of the factions that are going to be fighting off against Thanos while he has the Infinity Gauntlet? I'm curious because some awesome things are happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What a time to be a comic book fan. It is all the movies and everything from DC and Marvel, and you got the web series coming from Valiant. It's a great time to be a comic book fan. Anyways, we're gonna bring this video to an end, and yeah, I will catch you all later. Peace.